Your favorite idols didn't die. They were harvested to fuel a paranormal profit machine that values a ghost far more than a living legend. Every tragic accident you've mourned is a ritualistic removal, freezing a star's soul in a profitable purgatory the moment they outgrow their handlers. You aren't watching entertainment, you're witnessing a long-form execution where the ultimate exit clause is written in blood. Now I have to warn you, what you're about to hear isn't from this world. Viewer discretion is advised. This isn't just hidden truth. It's about a silence that craves you and something much older than the rules we follow. We are talking about strange symbols hiding in plain sight, power brokers moving behind the scenes, and silence that is bought at any cost. Hollywood's darkest stories don't just exist on their own. They form a pattern. Think about the icons who die young, the legends who suddenly vanish, and the careers that end at the exact wrong moment. When someone's influence grows too dangerous for the people in charge, the narrative changes overnight. Accident, overdose, coincidence. Tonight, we follow the cracks where the official story starts to fall apart. Some manage to escape, some are completely erased, and some are frozen in time forever. It's July 1969. Brian Jones, the guy who actually started the Rolling Stones, is found at the bottom of his swimming pool. The police call it a misadventure, which is really just a polite word for an accident. But here's the thing, he was 27, and he was just the first domino to fall. Fast forward exactly 2 years later, Jimi Hendrix, literally the greatest guitar player to ever live, chokes to death in a London apartment. Then, less than a month after that, Janis Joplin overdoses in a hotel room. They were both 27. It's like the universe, or the industry, has a very specific expiration date. It's honestly terrifying. But the one that changed everything happened in April 1994. Kurt Cobain, the face of a whole generation, is found in his greenhouse with a shotgun. The media ran with the tortured artist narrative immediately, but the math didn't add up. The toxicology report showed Kurt had 3 times the lethal dose of heroin in his system. If you know anything about biology, you know that at that level, you aren't just high, you're paralyzed. You definitely aren't picking up a heavy shotgun, aiming it perfectly, and pulling the trigger. It's physically impossible. You'd be about as active as a sack of potatoes. Different eras and different genres, but the same age every single time. Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse. They call it the 2-7 Club. And if you think it's just a weird coincidence, you haven't been paying attention to the fine print on the contract. The official story we're all told is pretty simple. Fame is a meat grinder. The industry tells us that being a young genius is a death sentence because of the burnout factor. We're taught that the 27 Club is just a tragic statistical quirk, a mix of too much money, too many drugs, and the pressure of the spotlight. It's a convenient cautionary tale that the labels use to sell documentaries and anniversary albums. They want you to believe these icons just ran out of luck at the same biological crossroads. Nothing to see here, guys. Just move along. But here is where things get really weird. If you look at the actual data, there is no logical reason for a massive spike in deaths at age 27. Statistically, musicians should be dying at 25, 28, or 30 just as often. But they don't. And the accidents themselves? They have more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. Take Jimi Hendrix. The doctor who worked on him, Dr. John Bannister, later admitted something crazy. He said Hendrix didn't just have wine in his system. His lungs and hair were literally soaked in it. It looked like someone had used a pressurized hose to force gallons of wine down his throat. That's not a choking accident. That's an execution. Then you have Amy Winehouse. Everyone thinks she was just a mess. But in the weeks before she died, she had actually cleaned up. She was moving towards sobriety. And more importantly, she was fighting to get the legal rights to her own music. That's a massive red flag in this business. See, the common thread isn't drugs, it's control. Almost every member of the 27 Club was at a point where they were becoming too big for their handlers. They were starting to understand the business side of things. They were gaining real political power, and they were trying to leave the system that made them. Cobain was trying to divorce Courtney Love and move away. Hendrix was in a massive legal war over his royalties. They weren't just artists anymore, they were liabilities. So, What's the real theory? The dark theory is that 27 isn't a coincidence. It's a cutoff. Think of the music industry like a predatory contract. In this world, an artist is just a unit of energy. At 27, you've reached peak influence. You're old enough to lead a revolution, but you're still young enough for your death to be a tragedy that sells records for the next 50 years. The theory is that the 27 Club is a system of silent removals. When an artist becomes too expensive to manage or too hard to control, the exit clause is triggered. It's a ritualistic sacrifice disguised as a sad accident. By taking them out at 27, the handlers freeze the artist's brand in time. They become a permanent moneymaker for the estate, and they never have the chance to grow up and tell the truth about what's really happening behind the scenes. It sounds like a movie script, right? But if the 27 Club is just the cleanup crew, we have to ask who is actually giving the orders. To find out, we have to look at the weird symbols, the secret hand signs, and the creepy rituals that happen at award shows right in front of our faces. Welcome to the Power Network. If the 27 Club is the cleanup crew, then we have to talk about the bosses. We've all seen it. You're watching the Grammys or the Super Bowl halftime show, and something just feels off. The deep red lighting, the weird masks, the backup dancers moving like they're in a trance. You tell yourself it's just artistic expression, but let's be real. If it looks like a ritual, walks like a ritual, and sounds like a ritual, it's probably a ritual. This isn't just about a few edgy music videos. We're talking about a massive, interconnected web of symbols and hidden messages that suggest Hollywood isn't just a place where movies are made. It's a place where souls are traded like Pokemon cards. From pop stars flashing the all-seeing eye over their face, to A-list actors wearing jewelry that looks suspiciously like ancient occult symbols. The evidence is everywhere. You just have to know what you're looking at. The industry's defense is always the same. It's just branding, bro. They want you to believe that every pyramid, every goat head, and every drop of fake blood is just a clever marketing tactic designed to get people talking. They call it shock value. The idea is that artists use this imagery to look deep or mysterious because controversy sells records. According to the mainstream narrative, there is no secret society, no dark initiation, and definitely no satanic agenda. It's just creative people being creative. And if you see anything deeper, they say you're just reaching. But here is where that "it's just art" excuse starts to fall apart. If it was just about being creative, why is everyone using the exact same symbols? Think about it. Why do artists from completely different genres who have never met all start doing the one-eye pose the second they hit the A-list? Why is the checkerboard floor a classic Masonic symbol in almost every major music video since the year 2000? It's not just the symbols, it's the whistleblowers. We've seen stars like Cat Williams, Dave Chappelle, and even Kanye West go on absolute rants about the handlers. Chappelle famously left a $50 million contract and fled to Africa because he said the industry was trying to break his spirit. He talked about Hollywood being a sick place where they try to force men into compromising positions just to see if they'll obey. It's about total submission. Then you have the glitch videos. There are dozens of clips online of celebrities from Al Roker to Katy Perry literally freezing in place on live TV, their eyes rolling back or their faces twitching like a corrupted computer file. The internet calls it MK Ultra glitching, referring to the CIA's very real mind control program. If these people are just actors, why do they look like they're being remotely operated by a bad Wi-Fi connection? And let's talk about the blood sacrifices. It's a dark topic, but have you noticed how many celebrities lose a close family member or a best friend right before they have a massive career breakthrough? In the industry, they call it paying the price. To get to the top of the pyramid, you have to give something up. It's a recurring pattern that happens way too often to be a coincidence. The dark theory goes way beyond edgy marketing. It suggests that Hollywood is actually run by a modern-day mystery cult, a secret power network that uses ancient Babylonian rituals to maintain control. In this system, fame isn't something you earn. It's something you're granted, but it comes with a contract that isn't written in ink. To get the big break, you have to go through an initiation. This could be anything from public humiliation to participating in parties that involve things so dark they'd make your skin crawl. Once they have you on tape doing something illegal or embarrassing, they own you. That's the bind. Once you're in, you become a vessel for their message. You start wearing the symbols. You start pushing certain agendas in your lyrics. You become a billboard for the cult. And if you try to speak out, if you try to tell the fans what's actually happening behind the curtain, that's when the system turns on you. You get labeled as crazy. Your contracts get canceled. And in some cases, you end up in the 27 Club. But here's the craziest part. This network doesn't just want your money. They want your asterisk attention, asterisk. Because in the occult world, attention is energy. Every time millions of people watch a ritualized award show performance, they are unknowingly participating in a massive global ceremony. But what happens when someone refuses to play the game? What happens when a global icon uses their platform to fight against the system instead of for it? Well, they don't just get canceled. They get targeted by the most powerful three-letter agencies on the planet. If Hollywood is the front for this power network, then the three-letter agencies are the enforcers. And nobody learned that lesson harder than the king of reggae himself, Bob Marley. We usually think of Marley as this chill, peace and love guy with a guitar. But in the 1970s, he was actually one of the most dangerous men on the planet. Not because he had weapons, but because he had influence. He was uniting people across racial and political lines in a way that made the global elite absolutely terrified. And then, a freak accident happened. A coincidence that ended his life at the age of 36. But when you look at the details, it doesn't look like a medical tragedy. It looks like a high-level hit. The CIA realized Bob Marley's influence was a paranormal threat they couldn't stop with a bullet, so they turned his own blood into a weapon. After surviving a hit squad, Marley was gifted sneakers by a mysterious agent. Inside was a copper wire that pricked his toe in the exact spot where a fatal, rare cancer would later bloom. They didn't just kill him, they infected him with a biological time bomb to ensure his revolution died in a hospital bed instead of on the streets. This was a soft kill,